All right, welcome to the RE Podcast, episode 2. We have with us today our good friend visiting from Florida, Mr. Nolan Clifton.
Nolan.
What's up, guys? Been here for like a week, feels like.
It does feel that way. It always feels like, but
it feels like, like we actually had a lot of time together.
It feels like we had a lot of time, but it always doesn't feel like we have enough time.
No.
So.
Like I go back to the sweat state.
You do. Florida is so hot. So you enjoy that, but your wife is there.
She is there. I'm very excited to see her.
Excited to see her.
She sent me the weather. I sent her the weather yesterday. It was pretty for Florida right now.
Yeah.
So still not looking forward to it.
Well, excited that she made it through the hurricanes and everything okay?
She did, man. She's hunkered down, ate bacon, and watched Netflix.
My kind of woman right there.
That's right.
Well, we have to take Nolan to the airport in 15 minutes, so we are going to make this a very short, condensed episode of the Ripple Effect podcast, and we're just going to kind of dive right into it and just talk a little bit. First, Nolan, just kind of share a little bit about you and what you're doing and kind of what's been going on with you.
Well, for the last almost 10 years, I've been a youth pastor at a couple different churches, and just recently I got position in Orlando, Florida, as a full-time children's pastor. So that'll be my first time entering into that sort of ministry. But
so what's that? What are your thoughts about that? You were a youth pastor for a long time, and now you're moving into this role at a different church of children's pastor.
It's just all the Lord. It's just how He all set it up, and how He made it so simple and so smooth into this transition. And I don't know what He's doing right now. I just know that He's got this on both my wife and my heart right now to do children's ministry, and we couldn't deny the peace and the comfort and the confirmations that we got, and that we know it's the Lord. So I'm super excited because I'm a big kid myself. I'm excited to speak a sermon in an Iron Man suit or a Hulk suit or a Wolverine suit, just because I can, even though
all of the Marvel comics at one time.
And it has nothing to do with superheroes. So I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome.
It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
it's going to be great. Well, I know for us, it's definitely cool to see you stepping out in faith and not being afraid. You came out of a difficult season recently, and so just you've really allowed God to minister to your heart and be open and obedient to whatever it was that He wanted moving forward. And I think He's really gonna definitely bless this next season of you and Joy's ministry together. It's gonna be really cool to see. But I know that Sal and I are super proud of you for doing it. So
thanks.
It's awesome.
I haven't heard anything from Sean over there. He's super quiet.
Yeah, Sean, what's going on with you?
Watch the Georgia game.
Georgia's up 14-0, man. I think they
got this game sealed already, even though it's the second half.
No one's calling it in the second half.
The second quarter right now.
It's the second quarter.
Right.
We got a little ways to go. But anyway.
We got sirens going on outside, all kinds of
It's
stuff.
Detroit.
It's
Detroit.
So we went to we all went to church to a church here in Detroit together this morning, and they were talking about the ministry of reconciliation, and that's really is the ministry that we are given in the New Testament. We're given the ministry to our ministry is to reconcile all people unto God. And so I feel as much as I think man, you were a youth pastor, now you're going to do children's ministry and all that stuff. The ministry itself is the same. The age group is different. The people that you're reaching are different. The ministry itself is the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is kind of the cornerstone for everything. And on this podcast, we've been talking a lot about we're going to talk about business's mission, and we've been talking a lot about some of the stuff that we're doing here in Detroit, and been talking about we'll be talking about traditional church and reaching people in that sense, as well as house churches and all kinds of other things that ways to reach people, homeless ministry, and what does it look like to multiply the church or to make disciples? What does that look like, and how can we help to resource and equip people to do that? And I think the bottom line is that no matter what ministry you're doing, honestly, man, when I found out it was children's ministry, I've known you for a while. I've known you for a long time. And so when I found out it was children's ministry, it kind of threw me for a loop for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, whoa, what? Children's ministry? It just kind of caught me off guard, that was the thing that God was calling you to do in this season.
And it caught me off guard, too. That's
he said no.
I was like, wait. Then God was like, what'd you say? No, okay, my bad. I'm supposed to say yes. Okay. But no, I think, ministry in itself is ministry. Is first thing, if you don't think it as it's serving the Lord, then it's not ministry. Ministry in general is that you just serve God. Because that's what we're here to do. We're supposed to serve God, and then we're supposed to tell other people about Jesus Christ. And that's the the rawest sum up of what ministry is.
Well, I think the bottom line is that the tactics change, based on who you're reaching and who you are trying to reach with the gospel in this season. Mm-hmm. In whatever season of your life, the tactics change. Whether it's God's calling us to homeless ministry, God's calling us to senior pastor of a church, God's calling us to plant a new church, God's calling us to youth pastor, God's calling us to children's ministry, God's calling us to house church, God, business's mission. The tactics will always change based on the season that God has you in.
Right.
But the focus really doesn't.
No.
The idea really doesn't. All of the ministry and everything that we do, the cornerstone, the foundation of that is really the same. And I think as a church, as a body as a whole, in the United States and in definitely in the U.S. and maybe across the world, I feel like we have these arguments about whose model is a better model for reaching people. Whose model is going to work. And what's the best way to reach people? And I think we lose sight of the fact that our goals are the same.
Yeah.
The focus of what we're doing, the mission behind what we're doing, it's all the same.
Yep.
It is to reconcile, to bring people back to God.
Right.
And it just changes based on what community you're in, based on what type of ministry that you're doing, the people that you're trying to reach. I think we need to let that dictate how we reach people. But really, honestly, the foundation of it is, it's all the same. It's all about reaching people.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, a lot of children's ministry, it's weird because a lot of times people say it's really not a lot about the children; it's about the parents. And you connecting relationships with those parents, and then because if your kids are having a good time, then the parents are going to stay. But then it's building those relationships and helping disciple. It's not only just children's ministry isn't just an hour where the parents can get away from the kids. Where it's just we're not getting paid to watch them for an hour. Where we want to teach them about Jesus and disciple them and talk to them, but also it's to create that relationships with those parents that maybe they need help with some things. You reach out to them, you talk to them, you give them helpful pamphlets and paper and information to help grow the family. Because that's a big thing too in children's ministry is that family dynamic. Because it's really huge in that.
And too, I know that children's ministry a lot of times goes from first grade up to sixth grade. So I'm not really sure, if that is, is that the age group that you're going to have?
Well, kind of.
All the way up.
I will be in charge of nursery all the way up to fifth grade.
Well, what's cool about that is that it's totally scientific. Well, not scientific, but it's a fact that by the time from 0 to 5, you're building the very foundation of who that child's going to be. So, what's really amazing is the fact that you're going to help them to be able to build a foundation on Christ, and then help their family to continue
Yeah.
to help build their family unit, as they move up.
Yeah.
And transition from infancy into,
And even to youth, to college,
Exactly.
like whatever. And like,
Exactly.
I think like in the church, like we've kind of done a really crappy job with that.
We have.
From going from nursery to infants to children's ministry to youth to college, like a lot of times it happens within youth and the college age. They
get lost.
They get lost, and it's really it sucks really bad because we don't do a good job of connecting those high schoolers to a young adult, like even small group, and then get them involved in something in the church, and then they just go off and then they have a family. It's all screwed up. They come back when they're 40 years old, but their life's a wreck, and then they come back into the church. It's like, whoa.
It's really difficult. Well, I feel like, we don't create that culture of community. A lot of times, unfortunately, when it comes to youth, when it comes to young adults, they're not paying the bills, so there's not a lot of importance put into them as far as, like, that's why you got to have a really great youth pastor, and you got to have a really great young adults pastor, that they have a heart for those people. So, then they can help to cultivate that culture of community within the youth group with small groups, create that culture within, the young adults to be able to develop those relationships that are going to be the foundational relationships to carry them through.
Yeah.
So if they're not important, though, you definitely can tell, because you always have those that slip through the cracks and don't connect in that way.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
unfortunate.
I think so. We got a couple of minutes left, but I want to in this like mini-sode, I want to kind of leave people with something that if they're listening, they're looking to multiply their their children's ministry or to reach more people, like whatever. Like I really want to focus in on the children and family piece, but I want to leave some people with some takeaways and some things that they can walk away with and maybe implement in their ministry or start working towards to get to reach more people, to reach more people with the gospel. So, like, I love what you hit on with the idea of family. Being a children's pastor, it doesn't mean that you just pastor infants and elementary schoolers.
Yeah.
Being a children's pastor is about families. And I think ultimately, like, and being a parent of 4 kids and being even in ministry, I think one of the hardest things is like having that devotional time with the kids, having that time with the kids to be able to pour into them, to make sure that they're not just hearing this at the school that they go to, or they're not just hearing this at church, or they're not just hearing this from their friends, but they're hearing the gospel, they're hearing the truth from their parents. And so, like, one of the things that I would say would be a great takeaway is, like, when you look at children's ministry, don't treat children's ministry as a daycare or like a time to sit with the kids. But your children's pastor, your children's ministry team should really be working more towards, like, how to connect with the kids while they're there, but how to resource parents in helping them to connect with their kids while they're not there. During the week at breakfast time, what questions about what questions could they be asking them about that week's message or that week's topic or what they're talking about, and maybe even connect the dots between, like, what's happening in a Sunday morning service for adults and what's happening in kids. Maybe they're learning the same type of things, but just on 2 different levels.
Yeah, that can actually go around all the way around, so from Sunday to children's to youth as well. There's plenty of resources out there that you can help get a packet together. Like, I know my wife and we're going to do a newsletter like every month, but it's also going to have helpful like dialogue pieces for devotions, like whatever sermon series we're on. We're going to have questions so that it has something that you can do at the dinner table, at night, in the morning, if you have time in the morning. But it's going to be somewhere where you can have a time, maybe not every day, but like make it like Friday night is your discipleship night with your family. Like even at the dinner table every night, just talk about what you read in the Bible. And there's plenty of resources out there. I know Walt Mueller. He's mostly about youth, but he has a lot of stuff that has about children's, and he does updated just stuff culturally, like he does youth culture and children's culture, and that's like I use that him a lot because he's like boots on the ground. He does a lot of researching and gives out a lot of resources as well.
That's cool.
Sean, like, what the heck, man? You all right,
Sean's
man?
just like all involved in the Georgia. So Sean is a diehard Georgia Dogs fan.
You say he's a diehard Georgia fan, but I have not seen him wear one T-shirt.
He doesn't have one. We gotta buy him
I gotta
one.
get him one.
Oh,
Yeah,
Christmas is coming.
well, how can you say he's a Georgia fan with a
fan?
Michigan shirt on it?
Like, because he also
he lives
a
in
Michigan fan because he happens to live in Detroit.
He lives in
We
Detroit.
were like, bro,
what?
you need to pick a team, and you might as well pick Michigan.
Stick with it.
So, so Sean's all involved in this game. Sean is checked out for the day, but Sean will be back in the next.
I'm not going to be on this one. I'm cool with that. I don't need to be.
Well, anyway, so I think
you were just on it.
I hate children.
Okay, and we're gonna edit that out.
So, or we'll just leave it in. You know? So I think, and Nolan, I think you make a good point. You know, finding curriculum that kind of weaves its way from adult to youth to children. You know, I mean, like as a church, maybe find ways to collectively minister to the family as a whole, and not just minister to three separate segments. You know, we have a lot of times we have totally different things going on in children's, totally different thing going on in youth, and then a totally different thing going on Sunday mornings for adults, and then there's no opportunity for discussion or anything like that around the dinner table with families because you know they're all on totally different ends of the spectrum, learning totally different things. So that might be something to take away when you look at planning your, maybe think about doing some leadership, some team sermon prep and planning, and invite your youth pastor, your children's pastor, the other people on your team to the table to be able to talk about that and, kind of put those things together and formulate a plan to reach not just a certain group or a certain person, but to reach like the whole family.
I definitely think that's so important too, because we can get caught up even like when you're on staff at a church and building your little kingdom and your little ministry, and we need to remember that as a whole, that's our goal, is to make God's call us to make the family as a whole.
Yeah, and your ministry is one part of a larger thing.
Yeah. It's the whole body, and we're all the body of Christ, and we all need each arm and leg and foot. So I think it's really important to work together in that, so that your church as a whole is on the same page and they're all being discipled well.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I'm excited about is the youth pastor, Tony Talavera. We were just there, had to pick up something the other day, and he was like, "Hey, man, just to let you know, we're here for each other. I know we're in different, departments, but we're here to help succeed everybody. Work with each other, and that's great. That's, find a church that does that.
That's cool.
So,
well, I'd be curious to hear from any listeners out there, what you guys are doing. Are there anybody who's already implemented this? You're already you work with the different departments to plan messages, at least plan message topics that kind of thread their way through the different age groups, or maybe you've even gone a step further and created devotional guides for the different age groups that parents can use to help minister to their kids because they're learning the same stuff on Sunday morning. What are some ideas? What are some things that you guys are doing? Because a lot of you guys, again, and we're going to keep reiterating the vision for RE podcast after podcast until people get it. But this idea is not that people just tune in to listen to us talk, because we really honestly don't know everything, and we're not doing all these different types of ministries all at the same time. Yeah. The goal is to create a community where people can help each other, where we can learn from each other. And help each other grow in ministry and in life, and encourage each other. And so I think I want to hear from you guys. Who's doing this? What is your take on children's ministry as it relates to the family and family ministry and the family dynamic in your church? Who's doing this? Who's doing this well? Who likes what they're doing? Share that out. Facebook.com/REMag. Twitter.com/REMag, or if you don't get a chance to do that, hit us up on the website, RE Church Mag, REChurchMag.com, and we'd love to hear from you and love to maybe dialogue a little bit more about what you're doing and how we can help use that to resource some other people and help them be as successful as they can be. Yeah. So cool. Well, Nolan, I know we gotta get out of here, man. We gotta get you to the airport. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. Chatting a little bit today. And thanks for having a safe flight, man.